Everyone figured the Warthog was done. Too old, too slow, too exposed. Then 2026 hit, and the Air Force rolled out an upgrade so sweeping it turns this Cold War airframe into something the original designers wouldn't recognize. Not a refresh, a full reinvention. Let's break down what changed, and why anyone who wrote this jet off should think again. The plan used to be simple: retire the Thunderbolt II, save money, let F-35s handle close support. Reasonable on paper. But ground troops kept requesting it by name, Congress kept blocking retirement, and engineers stopped asking how to phase it out and started asking how to make it dangerous again. What follows looks the same outside, and fights completely differently. This is a Cold War design built for slow, low-altitude tank hunting against far weaker air defenses than exist today, so retiring it looked logical. Reality disagreed. In sustained Middle East operations, commanders kept calling on the Warthog for its endurance, toughness, and that unmistakable cannon. A new surge of activity near the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz reinforced the point, and Congress refused to let the fleet die, mandating a large chunk stay airworthy into the 2030s. The real question then became, how do you make a 50-year-old jet genuinely relevant now? Two names defined this modernization: Suite 10 and Suite 11, staged hardware and software packages. Suite 10, rolling out since the early 2020s, rebuilt the digital foundation, larger high-res displays, faster mission computers, compatibility with modern precision weapons, and refined hands-on throttle and stick controls. It turned the Warthog from a flying gun with a radio into a networked strike jet. Suite 11 is the 2026 leap, adding contested airspace awareness, better survivability against modern defenses, integration with unmanned decoys, and longer range, more flexible weapons employment. Not every jet has it yet. Priority squadrons are first. Step inside an upgraded A-10C, and the cockpit is what stands out first. The new high-resolution display system delivers sharper bits, cleaner targeting video, and more legible weapons data, critical when split-second decisions happen at low altitude. A quieter but major addition is 3D spatial audio. Instead of a generic missile warning, threats now sound like they're coming from their actual direction. Paired with upgraded radar warning gear and tighter EW pod integration, pilots build a clearer threat picture without staring at one gauge. Updated ARC-210 radios add encrypted, jam-resistant, multi-band communication with joint and allied forces, no longer optional when adversaries actively target GPS and radio links. The Warthog always hauled serious ordnance. 2026 widens both the arsenal and how smartly it's used. The GBU-39 small-diameter bomb headlines the list, a roughly 250-pound glide bomb with GPS or inertial guidance. It can coast dozens of miles after release, strike with tight precision, and multiple units fit on one jet, letting it hit several targets from a safe standoff distance in a single pass. APKWS turns standard 2.75-inch rockets into laser-guided weapons. A pilot or ground controller lasers the target, and the rocket steers itself in. That's missile-grade accuracy at rocket cost, a sweet spot between the cannon and a full-size bomb for fast-changing close support. JDAM integration isn't new, but refreshed software lets pilots load multiple GPS points quickly, adjust release settings mid-flight, and mix DAMs, SDBs, APKWS, and cannon runs in one sortie, vital when ground units call and scatter targets during a single flight. Lightning and Sniper XR pods have flown for years, but 2026 tightens their integration with the cockpit, sharper video, steadier zoom, and closer ties to the helmet cueing system, meaning less head down time and more outside awareness during a strike. The Hobit helmet display lets pilots simply look at a target to cue sensors or weapons, with key data projected in their line of sight, a real advantage in close support environments where structures, terrain, and friendly troops sit close together. Some configurations add synthetic aperture radar, mapping the ground through clouds or darkness, spotting vehicle-sized targets, and sharing their data via data link, giving the jet genuine all-weather strike capability. None of this matters if the jet can't survive the flight home. The core protection, titanium cockpit tub, redundant systems, rugged build, stays intact, but new layers are added. Dedicated electronic warfare pods like Angry Kitten detect and classify threats, jam enemy radar and guidance, and feed richer threat data to the cockpit, letting the A-10 operate in airspace once considered off-limits. Jam-resistant GPS, deeper inertial navigation backup, and cross-checked NAV sources keep missions accurate even when satellite signals are attacked or degraded. Expanded Link 16 data link use means the jet shares position and target data with fighters, AWACS, and ground teams in real time, coordinating strikes and cutting the risk of flying into an ambush. One of the outer new roles is the Warthog as a decoy platform, using the ADM-160 MALD, a small jet-powered drone that mimics a larger aircraft's radar signature and floods enemy defenses with false targets. A modernized A-10 can release a batch ahead of a strike package, making enemy radar see a large incoming raid while real shooters, F-35s, F-15ES, or the A-10 itself, close and unnoticed. It leans on the jet's big payload, long loiter time, and ability to fly from bare-bones bases. Decades of low-level, high-G flying have stressed the A-10's wings badly. The Air Force is fitting newly built wing sets, reinforcing key structural points, and extending each airframe's usable flight hour life, the work that actually makes flying into the 2030s realistic, not just possible on paper.